Mm. Remember how Donald Trump complained and had so much to say about Hillary Clinton? This scandal
Yeah, I'm
is
starting with you, David,
way
because
bigger.
if this were Law and Order, which I love so much, if this were Law and Order, the cops would start looking at this. They'd look at the motive. They'd look at all sorts of things. And then they'd see this guy's got a bit of a rap sheet. So they'd go to somebody who knew him before, right? Before he was president. We know all this stuff from 2016. You know him from before. So if people came to you and said, hey, this guy who you know, who you've written about, had all this stuff at his place. What do you make of it? What would you have said?
Well, Donald fits perfectly the law and order model of the mobster who, along with his family, has never been caught because Donald's very good at running out the clock, ratting out other people, and complicating the case. I think, however, we're at the stage where the prosecutors have to decide how they're going to shape the case. You don't want to bring a kitchen sink case. You want to bring the case you can win. And that's the real challenge now is what of the many different crimes or collections of crimes that you could hit Donald Trump with are you going to want to bring because that's the case you know you can win.
Okay, Glenn Kirshner, here's the problem. The case you can win is the obvious case. It's the case that these documents shouldn't have been there. In my humble opinion as a non-lawyer but avid Law and Order viewer, that's not the case I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the guy who took documents that weren't supposed to be at his house that are supposed to be at the National Archives. I'm fundamentally disinterested in that. I'm really interested in why he took them and what happened with those documents and the information therein.
Yeah, Ali, and the law and order theme is so apropos. And it's not just about bringing the case we can win. And I think there are any number of cases to be brought against Donald Trump, whether it's, mishandling classified information or inciting an insurrection. But I also think at this moment, what we need to do is assess the potential damage to our national security that might be part and parcel of what Donald Trump did. When I tried cases for 30 years, I was a simple, straightforward prosecutor. And when I saw the evidence reported, when I saw the inventory unsealed, and I saw 43 classified folders that used to contain classified documents that were empty and that were in Donald Trump's office, I was reminded of what I told every single jury. I said, ladies and gentlemen, you don't check your common sense at the door when you're selected as a juror. You bring it into the courtroom, into the jury box, and most importantly, into the deliberation room. Is there anybody who thinks that when Donald Trump was packing up the White House or having others pack it up for him, he said, you know what I'm going to need you to do? I have 43 empty folders over there that used to contain classified documents. I'm going to want you to pack those up, deliver them to my private office at Mar-a-Lago, and put it in my desk drawers. I would suggest that offends our common sense. We now know that there's a potential security threat as a result of whatever he did with these documents. That has to be assessed in real time.
Joyce Vance, let's talk about the defense, right? For a moment, we're going to put aside the fact that this is a crime.
Wow. So the question becomes, where is the missing documents, the missing information from these top secret classified photos? That's the question of the hour. And remember, one of the main concerns that people had was the fact that Donald Trump would sell his country out, basically. What is he doing with that type of information? And here it's so bad. A lot of it, we don't really even know the details, but we're talking about top secret classified information. And there is some photos, man. You guys got to see this. You got to see this. It's crazy. Give me a second. Let me pull them up. I actually had, I thought I had the window pulled up though. Here for a sec. Guess not. Wait. There it is. Let's take a look at this photo. Just blow it up. Look at that. Look at those top secret folders. Like, they're so it's so obvious that they're top secret, right? I mean, just the folders themselves. Well, these folders were empty. So, although the FBI did seize several boxes of material, there is a huge ton that the FBI has not retrieved. One of the, again, I have to say it while it's on my mind, another thing that I know that I've even heard is, would Donald Trump have done this as like an ace card to guarantee that he won't ever have to go to prison for anything now that he's out of office? Because, you know, if I drop this information, if I sell it to the Chinese government or to Russia, where we already know how good of friends he is with Putin, right? And here we are, we've been, ratcheting down on Russia even harder since Biden's been in office, right? We've got Brittany Griner being detained in Russia, still in prison, sentenced to 9 years. The history books will be written that Donald Trump is corrupt as a mother effer, right? You remember how he used to say, lock her up when it came to Hillary Clinton, right? In the emails. This is way worse. By the way, this is Donald Trump's office. This is his office. What kind of secrets are in these folders? Secrets, there's a little information about, some of that information, but just let's stay on the fact that there's several dozens, over 4 dozen, I believe, in which the information is missing from the folders, and the police do not know where it's at. Yeah. Hey, Raccoon. I don't think, Raccoon, huh? I don't think he'll ever spend a day in jail. Donald Trump, I think, would rather die than spend a single day in jail, in my opinion. But these empty folders marked as classified during a search of Donald Trump's home, in this inventory of contents of these 33 boxes that were recovered from his personal office, may I add. Okay. Top secret files, just sitting there in this man's office. No security around it, no nothing. And then you think about it in his relationship with his kids, how Ivana was coaching him on his speech to the nation during the January 6th insurrection. By the way, Donald Trump has announced pretty strongly that he's going to run for 2024. Can you fucking believe that shit? So you 2 years from now, and for some weird reason, he actually said that if he got elected, he may consider an immunity to folks involved in the January 6th insurrection. His attempt He's a traitor. He had classified records in storage areas at Mar-a-Lago, but dozens of files were actually found in his office, and I bet you $1,000 those were the ones that were the most important. They recovered 3 documents marked confidential, 17 documents marked secret, 7 documents marked top secret, 43 empty folders with classified banners, and 28 empty folders labeled Return to Staff Secretary, Military Aid. More than 11,000 government documents in total retrieved by the FBI from his Palm Beach estate. By law, a United States president, when they leave office, they must transfer all of their documents and emails, all of their records to the National Archives. Everything that a president does in office is supposed to be public. There's even a public schedule that you can actually look at to see what the president is doing for the day. That's just how, it is. Although in a lot of respects, I think some could consider presidents kind of like puppets, because in our democracy, or whatever you want to call that here in the United States of America, whatever it is, it's a police state, in my opinion, but But a U.S. president leaving office must transfer all of their documents, emails to the National Archives. Period. And he knew this, okay? Has Donald Trump taken some of the country's most sensitive top secrets and just waltzed away from them, just waltzed away from the White House with the top secrets tucked in his bag, right? Some of these records, by the way, that they found in his office was actually mixed with his personal effects, like clothes, books, newspapers, just sitting around. Anybody that could have walked in that office. That's why certain sets of top secret information can't even be read in a public space. They have areas. They call them skiffs. They're like secure bunker-like locations. And going into one to have a either top secret conversation or to review some sort of top secret material or classified material, you have to actually put your phone up, all that. You can't have any of that in a skiff. And so for that type of information to just be sitting out in his personal office at his home, okay, has he sold any of this information to our enemies, to any enemies of the United States? Has he sold any of this information to Russia? Is my first question. Really? What kind of information? He even, obviously he complained that the FBI had access to safe. So they must have, but there's an inventory list. But the timeline of this, I think, is important, right? So January this year, the National Archive retrieved 15 boxes of White House records from Mar-a-Lago. And some of the documents that they received had been torn up. In February, reports started emerging that classified files were found in the Mar-a-Lago cache, and the National Archives asked the DOJ to investigate that. Again, the National Archives is a government-run institution. Again, when a president is leaving office, they must turn over all things, everything. If they were to ask you to give up your PC, hey, Skyatticus, give up your PC, your phone, whatever's on those devices, you should comply with that. And you know that going in, right? I think this was just another fuck you to the system. But at the same time, there's so much more than this, you guys. There's so much more to it. The fact that he even had these classified documents, right? I mean, what are you going to do with them? Then you think about those sons of his, those American Psycho sons. Oh, sorry. I just had to say that. But in April, a media report comes out that the FBI had begun a preliminary investigation into the possibility that Donald Trump took classified files to Mar-a-Lago after leaving office. On June 3rd, a senior DOJ official and 3 FBI agents, they traveled to Mar-a-Lago to review items in a basement. According to Donald Trump, he told him, whatever you need, just let us know. So he actually let the DOJ, the Department of Justice, come into his home to look in his basement on June the 3rd. It's almost like they tried to give him a chance to just give it up before having to go in there in the manner that they did, right? But then on June 8th, federal investigators write to a Trump aide to ask that a stronger lock be used to secure the room storing the items. Trump says that request was quickly fulfilled. On June the 22nd, the Trump Organization receives a DOJ summons for CCTV footage from Mar-a-Lago. On August 8th, dozens of agents search Mar-a-Lago, seizing more than 33 boxes, some containing top secret files, obviously, we know this. On the 12th of August, the warrants released showing that 11 sets of classified documents were taken. And then the judge orders the Justice Department to release a redacted version of court papers that convinced him to authorize the search of the Trump estate, which obviously was a good idea on his part. And this is one ruling that he should be very proud of in his career, that he is the judge that basically opened, the doors for the DOJ to kick down Donald Trump's doors, right? And Donald Trump is downplaying. He's downplaying all of this. I really want to hear what Michael Cohen has to say about this. I just like his take too, because obviously he was Donald Trump's personal lawyer for many, many years. He did prison time and all that. He knows how Donald Trump thinks in so many respects, like on the dirty side, right? Give me a second, y'all. Now, I was trying to see if I could find it. I think it was Newsweek magazine, that people are calling for Donald Trump to be arrested, obviously, right? Let me see if I can find that Newsweek article. Yeah, I'm looking at the inventory list, right? And the way that they have written these items down in this inventory list, we wouldn't know what type of information obviously that's in any of that stuff. But I'm just curious about something. By the way, did you hear that the Artemis moon mission got halted today? The second launch attempt, that was a go, because they announced it that that it was a go, and they were gonna launch this mission to the moon. Well, apparently the Artemis has a fuel leak of some kind, which is kind of scary. What's crazy to me is that I've actually seen in person a space shuttle. It's amazing when you stand near it. Like, it's just huge, man. It's unbelievable. It's amazing to see it in person, and it's also amazing to go during some of the launches, even some satellite launches and stuff like that. Down there in Florida, you can go out on the beach pretty much. You can look straight down, straight north, straight south, whatever, and watch a launch. I've watched one. It turned like night into day. The light from the power, that energy was so bright. Yeah. Anyway, that mission has now been canceled for right now. Second attempt. So, although we don't know what the real information that was inside of those classified folders, at least that inventory list proves that this it just kind of proves the sloppiness of it all. Donald Trump, there's no reason for classified folders or classified information to be sitting in Donald Trump's home at all. Again, as I was saying, like those skiffs, you have to go into one of those to review that type of information. Well, anyway, guys, we'll see what happens. I mean, we will see what happens. I don't know. I don't think Donald Trump will spend a day in jail, though. I really don't. What a crooked, horrible, horrible motherfucking man. What a horrible man. And Giuliani should be so motherfucking ashamed of himself. Like, he's basically sold his soul to Trump. Giuliani used to be, I remember when he was celebrated back in the day, when he was like what was he, the mayor? No, governor. No, he was the mayor of New York. More importantly, during 9/11. Hold on, y'all. Let's just hear this for a second. Because I'm curious on some of the classification processes of this information and how this information should be handled. So
67 documents marked as confidential, 92 marked secret, 25 marked top secret. These are what the FBI said were inside 15 boxes, retrieved by the National Archives in January from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home.
Yeah.
They were handed over after lengthy efforts to secure Trump's presidential records.
And that's when they said, oh my gosh, this is a lot bigger than just a Presidential Records Act violation. This could be a classified information national security risk. And so we need to bring the Justice Department in on this.
It triggered an FBI search of the Florida property in August, where the Justice Department says even more highly classified documents were found. The standards around classification and declassification are key to the federal investigation into Trump and his defense. Here's how that process works, including what authority the president has and doesn't have. The Constitution gives the president, as commander-in-chief, authority to decide what should be classified. And recent presidents have managed this by writing an executive order detailing the rules around the classification and declassification process. It's essentially been the same for decades. Bush really just updated Clinton's order, Obama just updated Bush's, and that's still the current procedure. Neither Trump nor Biden released new ones. The order gives the authority to decide what should be classified to people called original classifiers. They're folks like the Director of Intelligence and other higher-ups. The executive branch, which includes the military, employs more than 4 million people. Less than 1,500 of them have this important designation. They write out classification guides deciding what information should be classified and to what level. That guide would be distributed to other members of the agency, so they would know to label documents with the right classification and know whom they could and couldn't distribute it to. Confidential is the lowest classification level, information that could cause damage to national security. The next level is secret, then top secret. There's also additional classifications, like special access programs that only limited people can view. The Bin Laden raid, for example, would have been a special access program. There's also sensitive compartmented information, which contains details about intelligence sources and methods. Basically, information from spies. They can only be used and stored in special secured facilities, or SCIFs. The same goes with special access program files. Both these kinds of highly classified materials were found in documents from Mar-a-Lago. When marking a document containing classified information, the author must include which original classifier has deemed it classified and why, and directions on how it should be declassified. It can be automatic after a certain date or after an event takes place, but it generally can't be more than 25 years from its creation, according to the latest executive order. If information is to be declassified earlier, like what Trump says he did, that authority lies with the same people who could classify it in the first place, the original classifiers and the president. And the procedure is similar. Typically, a declassification guide would be written and sent out. The classified documents would then also be changed to show that the information was declassified. And it's important to note that this authority resides in the position, not the individual who holds that position. So if an original classifier retires, that person no longer has the authority to classify or declassify, but whoever takes their position does. This includes the president. The president also doesn't have authority over all classified information. Like nuclear weapons are classified by law, and any information shared by other countries can only be declassified by them. Here's where it gets a little complicated in regard to Trump. His lawyers claim that he broadly declassified a range of materials, suggesting that any material brought to Mar-a-Lago wasn't classified. But there's no written record of that blanket declassification. A former aide argues he did it verbally, similar to what he did in 2020.
In October of 2020, President Trump put out for the world to see a sweeping declassification order. That is the precedent that the President of the United States is allowed to operate under.
But in 2020, when journalists sued to obtain those supposed declassified records, they were denied. Trump's chief of staff wrote in court testimony that Trump's statements were not self-executing declassification orders, meaning Trump said it but didn't actually want to declassify the documents.
In almost every case, we have seen the court say, look, we understand the president said this in public, but he hasn't gone through any of the procedures for declassifying this.
In a similar case in 2020, the court ruled that while the president has broad authority to classify and declassify, declassification cannot occur unless designated officials follow specified procedures. Basically, the president has to do more than just declare it declassified.
So the lack of any evidence that they actually went through those procedures makes it really hard, in my view, to prove to a court that any of this was actually declassified. Even though there's a good argument Mr. Trump may have had that authority when he was president.
The FBI search warrant cited several laws surrounding the handling of documents, not necessarily just classified ones.
This case isn't just about classified documents. This is about the unlawful retention and potentially mistreatment or manipulation of a whole range of government records.
The investigation that stems from that August search could widen to more classified information, but that will involve the courts deciding if those documents really were classified.
so crooked, man. So crooked.
Tonight on the readout.
How long is
Since I
this?
became Attorney General, I have made clear that the Department of Justice will speak through its court filings and its work.
Well, the DOJ sure spoke loudly with its latest filing, revealing that the government believes Trump's team hid the classified documents he stole when he left office, moved them to unsafe places inside Mar-a-Lago, resisted giving them back, and lied about it all. Also tonight, the Trump lawyer who could also find herself under the microscope. Who is Christina Bobs? And is this former OAN host really the best that a former president of the United States could do? Meanwhile, Republicans still can't bring themselves to break with Trump, although we're starting to see some cracks in that blind loyalty. We begin the readout tonight with a footnote in the Justice Department's overnight filing full of stunning new revelations about Trump's handling of highly classified material. The DOJ wrote, "This investigation is not simply about efforts to recover improperly retained presidential records. Moreover, 18 U.S.C. 2071 criminalizes the concealment or removal of government records, including presidential records. In short, this is an investigation about lies, about deceit, and potential obstruction of justice." That is all spelled out in the DOJ's 36-page response to Trump's request for a special master in what is nothing short of a damning report about the lengths to which Trump and his legal team went to withhold subpoenaed information. Just remember, it took 8 months for Trump to turn over the first 15 boxes of documents to the National Archives in January, including classified documents that should never have left the White House to begin with the expectation that that was going to be all of them. Of course, it wasn't. And so the archives turned to the FBI, which after a protracted back and forth with Trump's team, came to Mar-a-Lago on June 3rd. And with the aid of a subpoena, received what was again claimed to be the last of the classified documents in Trump's possession. This time with one of his lawyers claiming under oath that all of the documents had been returned. And yet, we now know that that too was a lie, with the DOJ stating in its filing, quote, "The FBI uncovered multiple sources of evidence indicating that the response to the May 11 grand jury subpoena was incomplete and that classified documents remained at the premises," meaning Mar-a-Lago. And perhaps even more alarming, the DOJ added, "The government also developed evidence that government records were likely concealed and removed from the storage room and that efforts were likely taken to obstruct the government's investigation. This included evidence indicating that boxes formerly in the storage room were not returned prior to the council's review." That was clearly enough evidence to get a federal judge to sign off on a warrant leading to the search of Mar-a-Lago earlier this month, in which the DOJ indicated 13 boxes or containers contained documents with classification markings, and in all, over 100 unique documents with classification markings, that is more than twice the amount produced on June 3rd, 2022, in response to the grand jury subpoena, were seized. And those documents were found not just in the storage room, where the FBI had been told the remaining documents were held, but from inside Trump's own personal office, including 3 classified documents inside his desk. Take a look at this. This is a picture of what was seized from that office. And as you can see, some of those documents include some of the highest classification levels, with additional markings indicated it included human intelligence. It was so highly classified that the DOJ noted that even the FBI counterintelligence personnel and DOJ attorneys conducting the review required additional clearances before they were permitted to review certain documents. The DOJ also says Trump's request for a special master is unnecessary and would significantly harm governmental interests, including national security interests. And simply put, the former president lacks standing to seek judicial relief or oversight as to presidential records, because those records do not belong to him. They belong to the government. We're still awaiting Trump's legal team to respond to the DOJ filing, and they have until the end of this hour. Joining me now is former CIA Director John Brennan, Melissa Murray, law professor at NYU and former law clerk to Judge Sonia Sotomayor, Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney and law professor at the University of Alabama. All 3 are MSNBC analysts. So I want to go through this. I'll start with you, Melissa. This was a fascinating read. Now, this is my morning reading today was this And even as a non-lawyer, I found it very interesting. They seem to make, in my view, 4 main points. I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. The first point being, these are not Donald Trump's records. Any presidential records seized pursuant to the search belong to the United States, not to the president, not the former president. When producing documents, neither counsel nor the custodian even asserted that he had declassified anything. NARA stated the former president could not assert executive privilege because even a former member of the executive branch cannot assert executive privilege against the executive branch. These are executive branch people who wanted to review it. He used to be in the executive branch. You can't have executive branch against yourself. And he can't claim any injury because he didn't own the stuff. It's like if you stole a TV and then the police came to get it and you said, well, that's my TV. It's like, no, you stole that TV. It's not yours. Is that about accurate in your view?
That's exactly right, Joy. And basically, they're laying out the argument that there is no jurisdiction for this court to intervene here because the former president lacks standing to even bring this matter. He doesn't have a possessory interest in these documents. They are owned by the current president of the United States, and that's not him, nor has he been injured in this way because they are not his. And this court really doesn't have any reason to intervene here and to decide this case. So that's first the jurisdictional discussion, and then we'll proceed to the substantive or the merits of the case, why this appointment of a special master lacks merit and fails for all of the reasons that the DOJ has identified.
It's hard for me to imagine, Joyce, a good reason why they would have a special master. Again, they've already reviewed these documents. They've already gone through what could be privilege. There's no lawyer-client privilege because there's no lawyer's offices to search. It's not like a Michael Cohen situation. They've already looked through the boxes. By the way, and I want to get you to comment on this as well. One of the things that came through in this filing is that when FBI agents actually met with Donald Trump's representatives in June, they were not allowed to look through these materials. Christine and Bob claimed the lawyers showed the federal offices the boxes. They said they spent some time looking through the materials, but they were prevented from actually doing their job and looking through all the materials. In addition to that, Donald Trump has claimed his passports received, and that's wrong. Well, the location of the passports for the DOJ is actually evidence in the investigation of authorized retention. That just proves the passports are laying next to the documents. That means you had them. Your thoughts?
So the special master request made by Trump turns out to be a real strategic error because it presents DOJ with the opportunity to present its side of the case. And DOJ, you played that wonderful clip from Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, who says DOJ only speaks through its pleadings and through its work in court. And they're speaking very loudly here. And one of the important opportunities that they had was to explain what their evidence means. So, Joy, this example that you cite of the passports, where Trump had expressed outrage, they took my passports. DOJ does a masterful job in this pleading of explaining that they were authorized to take items that were co-located with classified materials or with presidential records. And DOJ goes a step further here and explains that when you find these sorts of items in the same area as these classified materials, it can have evidentiary value. Well, here's what that means. It means that DOJ is just that much closer to showing that the former president knew that those items, the classified materials, the records were there, and that he had the ability to exert some control over them. And this is, of course, essential to establishing that he was in possession of them. So DOJ is beginning to make its case not just to the court, but to the public as well. And it's a persuasive case.
Absolutely. And Director Brennan, just reading through this, the thing that was really shocking is the extent to which it appeared Donald Trump went to move things around, that each time authorities came to take the documents back, he didn't give them everything, but he also seemed to move things. From a national security standpoint, as somebody who was in the business of dealing with our national security, having those documents no longer in this storage room, which we don't even think that was all that secure, but now putting them in his office, having these things in his desk drawer, in his office, in a public club like Mar-a-Lago. What kind of a security threat might that have faced? What kind of, tradecraft might have been used by our adversaries to get at that information if it was that insecurely stored?
Well, Joe, I think we know that both Trump and Mar-a-Lago were high priority intelligence targets when Trump was in office. And I think it became even more of an intelligence target of foreign adversaries after he left office, because there was probably a strong suspicion that there was information there that would have provided some insight into national security. So I'm sure the Russians were looking at it after January 20th of 2021 and trying to determine how best to gain access to Mar-a-Lago. Having somebody go in there, either as a member of a cleaning staff or a caterer or a guest, to identify locations in that compound where documents might be stored. Then access those rooms with those documents, probably at a time when Trump was not there, maybe when he decamped to Bedminster, New Jersey last summer, because that minimizes the Secret Service presence on the compound. And you go in and then you start making copies of all the documents that look important. And if they saw those cover sheets that say top secret, SCI, HCS, those are the ones that they would copy. But they would put those papers and documents back exactly where they found them. And which makes this a nightmare for the intelligence community. Unless there was unfettered, continuous, 24/7 video surveillance coverage of every place that those documents were, the intelligence community will not know whether or not individuals made copies of those highly sensitive documents, which is why I think the damage potentially is incalculable based on the failure to be able to understand exactly what might have been compromised.
Wow. Wow, man. That's crazy. Y'all, I'm out. Got some things I got to take care of. Y'all have a really good rest of your Saturday. I'll be around. Till next time.